Good morning, everyone. If you could please take your seats. The November 21st Board of Directors meeting is called to order. First, I'd like to ask interpreters to explain how to access interpretation. Please go ahead.
Good morning. Announcement from the interpreter. To use the interpretation feature, please scroll to the bottom of the screen where the meeting controls are. Click on interpretation icon, world, and select English as your language. If you're joining through the Zoom mobile app, cell phone, tablet, etc., please press the ellipsis, then interpretation, and then choose your language. Finally, click on mute the original audio to not hear the original Spanish flow in the background. Headsets are available for interpretation. If you're in the meeting room, please check out a headset from the receptionist in the lobby. Aviso por parte del intérprete. Para hacer uso del servicio de interpretación, favor de desplazarse a la parte inferior de la pantalla de Zoom, donde aparecen los controles. Haga clic en el icono de interpretación, globo terráqueo, y seleccione Spanish, español. Si está utilizando la aplicación móvil de Zoom, celular, tableta, etc., presione los puntos suspensivos, luego interpretación y luego el idioma. Si no desea escuchar el audio original en inglés en el fondo, por favor seleccione Mute Original Audio, silenciar audio original. Contamos con auriculares disponibles para el servicio de interpretación. Si se encuentra en la sala de reunión, por favor de pedir auriculares con la recepcionista en el vestíbulo. Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the land that we call home. The tribal nations of the San Diego region have historically faced injustices. We acknowledge the harmony that existed between the land, nature, and its original peoples, who have since endured displacement, persecution, and systemic oppression. We pay our respect to the unceded territory and county in the unceded territory and homelands of the 18 tribal nations in our region, the most in any county in the United States, from 4 cultural groups, the Kumeyaay, the Genyo, the Luceño, the Cupeño, and the Cahuilla. This land has nourished, healed, protected, and embraced them for many generations in a relationship of balance and harmony. As members of the SANDAG community, we acknowledge this legacy. We aspire to learn from Indigenous traditional knowledge and experiences in undoing the injustices of the past. Now, please stand and join me in the flag salute. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Michael, can you please confirm quorum?
We do have a quorum, Chair, with the cities of Carlsbad, Chula Vista, Del Mar, Escondido, La Mesa, National City, San Marcos, and Vista absent.
Very good. Let's move on to non-agenda public comment.
Thank you, Chair. For the purposes of civility and an orderly meeting, we kindly ask that you refrain from using loud, threatening, profane, or abusive language. Per our board policy, the amount of time allowed for each verbal public comment is determined based on the number of agenda items, the complexity of those items, and the number of persons anticipated to offer comment. This allows us to hear from as many people as possible and to complete our business while we still have a quorum. Based on those factors, the Chair has determined that today's meeting, each member of the public will be allowed 2 minutes for their comments. If you are online, please raise your hand now. And Chair, we have 4 in person and we have 4 online. First up is Truth, followed by Purita Javier.
It's green. There it is. Thank you. Okay, for Manuela again. To paraphrase Bart Simpson, when someone crosses their fingers or holds their breath, wishing you the worst, don't worry, they'll eventually run out of breath. The only housing government should be in the business of building is housing for honorably discharged veterans, because veterans and their families have actually paid dues to the entire country. There's no group with more homelessness challenges and no group more deserving of a hand up. MTS case update, a dumb jury pulled a penny and is stealing $8.5 million from taxpaying residents to give to the family of criminal Anthony McGaff, who assaulted a woman on a bus and ended up getting choked to death by Good Samaritans who saved that woman's life. Why does California send the message that people riding public transit don't matter, and that especially women's lives don't matter? On microtransit, it costs 3 to 5 times the price as public transit. There should be an independent assessment on the true cost of both microtransit and public transit. Because of the competition for rides, microtransit is not accessible by all at predictable times. Public transit is a set schedule every day of the week. Microtransit is often used by those who have cars but want an inexpensive trip compared to an Uber or Lyft. While microtransit is a luxury of convenience in a very limited area, public transit is many people's only available and affordable mode of transportation. It is not a luxury, it's a requirement. It is specifically meant to ensure people of all incomes have the ability to access different areas and different opportunities that would otherwise not be available to them. Microtransit works if, one, it's not competing and overlapping public transit routes, and two, there's a private way to fund it, whether that's ad revenue or a private business who benefits from a stop paying for it. And for public transit, MTS and NCTD need to downscale their underused 60-foot accordion buses and increase security and fare collection so that there's major tax dollar savings, cost recovery, and increased safety. That would also increase ridership. So until all of this happens, microtransit and public transit is going to keep wasting our tax dollars. And so since I have 3 seconds, I'm going to say hello to Rebecca Jones. I just noticed you. Hi.
Next is Prieto Javier, followed by Cesar Javier.
Good morning. I am Prieto Javier, victim of poison gassing from ceramics kilns operation. Over the years of voicing our concern on toxicity or emission, air pollution from non-metallic mineral product manufacturing, also known as ceramics manufacturing and kiln. We found out the 3 weak links in locating, operating, and even altering the home business mainly. Number 1, county air pollution controlled district code load 11, exempting 20 industrial and manufacturing business from permit, which only means business owners can do well even at the neighborhood dedicated residential zone. Number 2, City of San Diego allowed the hazardous home business in a residential zone. Number 3, owner, artist, member of the San Diego Pottery Guild got its business.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Next is Cesar, followed by Blair Beekman.
Cesar and Purita, thank you, Uncle Sam, for this privilege to speak up to our thinkers. We consider SANDAG as the pinnacle of all universities as far as cognitive, We are a family of soldiers, Mr. Lakaba. And your elected colleagues, 10 of you, we deserve some kind of a reward, protecting and defending our democracy. This is our community, Mr. Lakaba. We have been reaching my city for 4 years. With your gentlemanly, assuringly words, Mr. Javier, I will talk to Mr. Rivera. Councilor Rivera, District 9. A deceitful, like an enemy, surprisingly, capturing your trust, only to say, I will reach the air pollution control district, Mr. Javier, only to discover that he is one of the governing board member, along with the mayor. Where is the mayor? These 11 elected officials And the past attorney, city attorney, to my estimate, forgive me, I may be saying words that are threatening, but these are not threatening words because the more threatening are the victims of Tijuana River Valley pollution, victims of criminality, victims of fire, victims of flood, victims of homelessness, victims of poverty, initiated intentionally. My voice is too high.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Next is Blair Beekman, followed by Andrea Ebbing online.
Hello, Blair Beekman. I'm able to make a personal appearance this week. Been up in the San Francisco Bay Area. The automatic cars are now coming down here to San Diego. Man, there are a ton of them up in San Francisco. I know yourselves are really talking about the future of automatic cars. I hope you want to talk about the technology involved with the cars. I think that would be how to be innovative. You know, is how to address all the technology around the car. And I think that would actually be ways to be ahead of the game and how to address the arrival of this. I don't think it's a very good practice, but so it goes. I also wanted to mention that in Oakland, at this time, their committee meetings reached a deadlock, a tie. They couldn't move forward a signing of a flock contract for the next 2 years. They're seriously considering leaving flock in Oakland, and I think it sets a really important precedence that we can leave the status quo. There are other ALPR vendors available besides flock. We don't have to continuously answer to flock. And Oakland is starting something. I think the city of San Diego will not be far behind. Just a question, openly question that we can have choices. And I think that's poses an interesting future for ourselves. It's a future about more responsible practices and practices that are not focused on the national security state, but that focuses on people, everyday people. To talk about our technology. So good luck how we can be considering these things. With my remaining time, good luck that we work on less over militarization with ICE raids that happen here. That's an important concept and how we practice. Thank you.
Next is Andrea Ebbing online, followed by the original draw.
Hi, my name is Andrea Ebbing, and I just want to echo Cesar Javier's comments about the intentional criminality, victims of criminality, homelessness, addiction, and just let everyone know that our district attorney, Summer Stephan, and her federal judge husband, Dana Sabrow, and her city attorney sister, Reina Stephan, those three make every single decision in every single court in San Diego. Therefore, there is no justice. Victims of crimes will suffer. Addiction will continue because we're funding opioid dealers who are cloaked as rehab owners. And we are doing so in violation of the Brown Act, which is why 192 DOJ attorneys across the nation are hearing from me on a daily basis, and so are all of you. And it will not go away. I will contact the White House, the Office of the Inspector General, the IRS. I am reporting every single agency and every single person involved in what I see to be a RICO enterprise. The mentally ill man who walked into a Great Clips and had a fit and certainly scared the girl behind the counter got 6 years in prison. But our county contracted darling rehab owner, kickback provider, dope dealer, child abductor, murderer, who openly paid to have me murdered, but I survived, unfortunately for everyone involved in this, didn't get anything. In fact, what he got was a missing felony case file from his friend Summer Stephan, who has done this about 6 times with several high-profile friends of hers, which the victims are either left for dead, committing suicide, or homeless and addicted to something now to to survive her tyranny. The terrorism is going to end. I will form a coalition. It will be very public. We will come for it. Thank you.
Next is the original draw, followed by phone number ending in 8813.
Yes, the organized crime that's happening in San Diego County is off the charts. You guys intentionally victimize people throughout the county, whether it's in your cities and the decisions that you guys make or through SANDAG. And you guys talk about safety and, protecting people, but you don't do anything that does that. In fact, you put people in dire straits by increasing taxes to pay employees more to not provide the things that are supposed to be provided. And it's sad because you guys encouraged an invasion to happen on our border. Now we're suffering the consequences of having federal agents go after and have to take care of that. I'm not talking about how they're doing it, but the fact that you guys encouraged that and a 5-year-old little girl was raped in Linda Vista. Thank God this man, Alejandro Jose Confessor, has got 40 years sentence. He should actually, they should be executing pedophiles so that pedophiles quit doing what they're doing. But it's sad because you guys also encourage that. And if it's an illegal alien, you get upset that they rip a family apart. But through CPS and child welfare services, child and family well-being, you guys don't care that kids and families get ripped apart, children get adopted out. It's a very lucrative business. The county tries to go and steal babies as soon as they're born out of false allegations. They hide sexual assault. You guys sit here and you're concerned about drugs that come across the border that you encourage through the ports of entry and through just the racketeering that's going on. It's not a problem because it's a good way to get rid of the homeless. You don't care about the homeless. You actually perpetuate that. And it's like you guys engage with NGOs that do all of this, that where did the 300,000 children go that were lost coming across the border that you guys wanted to sit and say that the border was secure? So everything that you guys do actually victimizes people more and more, and everything is a racket. You can't even provide what you're supposed to, and people need to see what you're actually doing.
Thank you. Next is phone number ending in 8813, followed by Paul the Bold.
Okay, Consuelo here. So so today I'm going to use my time and offer a reminder and about where we stand and how we got here. Every policy you advance, every regional transportation plan, every climate mandate, mobility hub, VMT target, housing allocation, density push, and land use redesign. All of it aligns almost perfectly with the framework of the United Nations Agenda for the 21st Century. Whether you speak about it publicly or not, whether you recognize it consciously or not, the pattern is undeniable. The language you use, the priorities you push, and the structures you reinforce are in fact in lockstep with the globalist agenda. And I say this without hostility because I know some of you already feel this. You feel it every time you're handed another packet filled with plans that did not originate in San Diego, were not born from our communities, and do not reflect the true needs of the people who actually live here. And some of you did enter public office with integrity and good intentions. I get that. Some of you still want to fix what's broken, and I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. That's not the design. I'm going to remind you of the fundamentals here. The technology is advancing. Unfortunately, Blair, human beings, being human is declining, and that's all on purpose. And that's the direction that everything that's being pushed is going towards. Less connection, less community, less freedom of movement, less sovereignty, less humanity. And every time SANDAG chooses a global script over local truth, that decline accelerates. And again, not here to attack you. I'm here to remind you, SANDAG is supposed to serve the people of San Diego, but they serve the United Nations. They serve international
Your time has
development.
expired. Our last public comment is Paul the Bold.
All about the feds keep clawing back approved grants. The Trump administration canceled the grants for street safety measures pedestrian trails and bike lanes in communities across the country this month, each time offering a simple rationale for yanking back the federal aid. The projects aren't designed for cars. We told you, people do not use bike lanes and they are of equal safety to cars, pedestrians, and bicyclists themselves. A San Diego County road improvement project, including bike lanes, quote, appears to reduce lane capacity in a road diet that is hostile to motor vehicles, unquote, the U.S. DOT wrote, rescinding a $1.2 million grant had awarded nearly a year ago. This is in addition to the raised berms and some of the flexible bollards installed in Vista this year as part of a bike lane safety project, which are or being removed after more than 1,000 complaints, safety complaints. They may have been safe for bikers, but many drivers said they were difficult to see and created new traffic hazards. Another 700,000 wasted on bike lanes. I object to my tax money being wasted like this. There is also the low sand corridor, which keeps crumbling, washing away, and getting blocked, making the whole route next to the sea a danger zone. Hope you fix that permanently. As for AI driverless cars, remember, AI has no conscience about blocking streets or causing accidents or even people getting killed or crushed or dying. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Your time has expired. That concludes our non-agenda public comment, Chair. And for the record, the cities of Carlsbad, Chula Vista, Del Mar, National City, San Marcos, and Vista are present.
Very good. All right, we're on to non-agenda member comments. Are there any? No? Okay, all right. I'd like to remind everyone that our next board meeting on December 12th, which means we get a couple weeks off in between, we'll be starting at 9 a.m. rather than the usual 10:30 a.m. We've got a lot of really meaty items on that agenda, and so plan to stay between 2:30 and 3, all right? I'll now turn it over to Mario for his updates.
Thank you, Chair. On the couple of updates, as you all know, the government shutdown ended. The current bill will fund the government through January 30th, 2026. The shutdown normally, the impacts that it has more like for SANDAG is processing grants, and some agencies can't process them because they're not working or they're just in a skeleton crews. So we're working as those agencies are bringing back their employees and getting up to speed. We're working on trying to resolve some of the grants that have not been issued. There's still several grants that have not been issued from DOT that we're still trying to resolve on that aspect. Regarding Senate's 375 working groups that we've been attending, there's been a lot of great discussions with different interest groups and MPOs and League of Cities. There's a lot of areas of opportunity, always with the spirit of being able to implement the efforts that the plans identified. So we're coming up with some good ideas. We would like to come and brief exec board early next year on those outcomes, because there is a potential that a bill will be coming out early next year with some of those ideas being captured. So our responsibility is to come and brief our exec committee on what's being discussed and get guidance from all of you. Wild Conservative Board Open House. SANDAG hosted the board members and staff for an open house about our lagoon conservation efforts and a tour of the San Eligio Lagoon. The visit was facilitated also by State Senator Blake Spear's office, and we're really, really happy to showcase our efforts that we're doing in those aspects. Talking about the Smart Road Incentive Programs and the grants. Last month, we notified the board and your city managers that there were some errors found in our Smart Road Incentive Program grants, requiring us to reevaluate and go and see that process. We have completed the reevaluation. As a result, there were no changes on the project rankings to the planning climate action planning grants. So those two set of grants we're planning to bring into the Transportation Committee in December 5th and to the board on December 12th for the consideration of being awarded. There were some ranking changes on the capital programs of those grants. So we will be coming to the exec committee early next year to discuss about what are the options that we can bring in, either adding additional funds that have accrued in the program, or what would be some of the prudent measures. So the exec committee, as we're trying to bring it up to be our strategic board on management issues, so we will be coming back early next year on those ones to all of you. Our coordinated plan, in which is the plan that talks about how we get specialized transportations to the public, gets updated about every 4 years. So it's out for comments right now. And the comments, we would like to get feedback up to December 5th. We're proposing some changes there. And we really want to initiate that great discussion of how we can make our coordinated plan more efficient and more transparent. So it's out for comment. We really are hoping we will get a robust set of comments so we can have good discussions about that. I want to thank Councilmember Edson, who represented yesterday SANDAG at an event, a press conference for Access for All grant recipient FAG. It was held at Caltrans, and we really appreciate representing the agency in this very important program. Just as an example, through a grant that we got through California Public Utilities Commission, SANDAG granted $2.3 million to FAC, which will allow them to expand their services to the airport. So those are just some of the many things that can be accomplished with this type of grants. So we really appreciate that. I want to take a moment to thank the board for the robust conversations we have had the last couple of meetings on a delivery strategy. I was asked, well, what's next? Well, there's going to be structural conversations. We're going to have our regional plan coming up. Then we're going to have some budget actions. Our budget will be coming later next year. Those all will represent those part of those discussions based on either prioritizing funds or moving forward with some projects to earlier phases to get them to realize and finalize those phases to get to basically to begin construction, a lot of those projects. I do want to mention that in next year, we will also be having some good conversations. We will be bringing to the board and the PACs some policy discussions on the business rules of how we operate our facilities. That's going to be a very robust conversation. We'll provide more information as the year goes on in early next calendar year. But I think things are shaping out both from a policy discussion and delivery discussions to have a robust plan of moving forward with the resources this region has and implementing them in a wise manner. And finally, just reminding everybody, the SANDAG offices will be closed to the public next week from November 24th to the 28th. And our customer service center will be closed Thursday and Friday for Thanksgiving, November 27th and November 28th. And happy holidays.
Wonderful. Thank you. Gil Cabrera, you're on the board.
Thank you, Chair. On Wednesday, we announced a new program at SAN, which is a little bit of a throwback for those that remember the days. Starting Wednesday, you can now go online at san.org and get a gate pass to meet people at the gate and take them through security at the gate. You no longer need to have a ticket to get through security. These are limited at some level. There's quite a few, but they're first come, first serve. You can reserve one up to 7 days in advance. And if you want to enjoy the amenities at SAN and or just look around the new terminal, you don't need to even have a passenger that you're taking or waiting for. You can just get a gate pass and go through. So you put in some information, it does go through a TSA clearance, and then they give you a pass that you just take through security with you. So kind of a throwback to the pre-9/11 days of air travel for all of you. And we're one of the first airports to implement this, so it's kind of a cool program.
Yeah, good to hear. All right. Very good. Okay, so we're going to start today with the closed session items. So Michael, do you have any public comments on our closed session items?
We do have public comments. If you are online, please raise your hand now. We have 3 in person and it looks like 3 online. So first up is Truth, followed by Caesar.
Item 3.1, I'm going to talk more about the mystery handpicked council only after Lisa, Mento, and Joe make a decision for everyone again, because it seems like this is the type of decision it should be an entire board should be agreeing on. So it kind of creates a culture of distrust. Item 3.2, HR Director Joshua Golter. Who is that? Have I ever seen him? The website Gov Salaries claims Joshua only made $10,000 in 2023. There's no way that's accurate. However, I did find his phone number online. I found he believes that nothing spreads joy quite like a great cookie. And that's weird. I thought it was donuts. I think Minto would agree. One year, Joshua was posting on LinkedIn that SANDAG values diversity. I don't care if racist equity was a SANDAG policy, everyone should have opposed it. 2 years ago, Joshua was interested in AI, recruiting tech, and chat GPT. There is no way to destroy the humans and human resources than by first labeling and demeaning them as resources and then eliminating them with unnecessary technology. I'm not in favor of increased paychecks for the HR director when there have been questionable hiring practices with this agency. Example, let's be very transparent. How many people employed at SANDAG are women? How many are gay? How many are trans? How many are anything but white? How many were born in Mexico? Up until this year, I have been witnessing a serious discrimination problem. And so I don't care what box somebody checks. I'm the last one to judge. But if they could do the job well and be a kind human being, that's all that matters. I want some assurance that Joshua Golter and this entire agency are in agreement to a new path that will finally scrap the discriminative equity statement in both policy and practice. So I have an official request for the audit team. Find out how many times the unlawful terms equity, diversity, and social equity and affirmative action were applied when SANDAG hired people from the years 2020 to 2025. Discrimination, especially against straight white males, was obviously going on. I just like to be very clear about what I have noticed for a long time. I mean, can you imagine people like Bruce not being here? He's very qualified. That'd be horrible. So please look into that. Thank you.
Next is Caesar, followed by Blair Beekman.
Thank you, Uncle Sam. You know, elders, like testimony or last will, testament, I mean, is respected. We are seniors. We have lived in this region, hopeful of healthy longevity. We recommend that city elected officials, Councilor Lacaba, Councilor Rivera, and the rest of their colleagues in cohorts should not be a member of this prestigious association of thinkers. Proof, you know it. They control our air we breathe, the water we drink. Look at the leadership. The mayor smiling and winking, blinking eyes over the new County Supervisor Aguirre. Bad, bad. We are elders and we know whom to vote, whom to elect, whom to approve to serve San Diegans. If that is a threat, I am willing to suffer. But please, hear us. San Diego is not only home of ordinary San Diegans, but saints and brave and honest, patriotic soldiers and civilians. Mr. Lacaba, you don't deserve any position here. Mr. Rivera, wherever
Thank
you
you.
are.
Your time has
Mr.
expired.
Mayor, please.
Next is Blair Beekman, followed by the original draw online.
Hi, Blair Beekman. Thank you first to the report out on airport issues. It's nice to hear we can be returning to practices pre 9/11. I hope we can really make better sense of what happened on that day and learn how to grow from that and learn how to be clear exactly what happened on that day. So it's nice to hear the report out. Good luck how we can build that good future for ourselves, return to our good future. I wanted to comment closed session items that thank you. It sounds like I don't know if you will be actually deciding today on a person. It's a really important job and role this person will be having. I'm sorry, I don't think I mentioned you had a previous closed session agenda item on this subject of a potential appointment to the general counsel. Well, I don't know if this is quite actually, but in this position and in this role, I just a friendly reminder in the importance of accountability that we're all trying to better understand here at SANDAG, and for staff reporting to come to this body as a more accountable process with their presentations, I feel is important to work on, and that yeah, that we're building clarity, and that we don't have to fear having conversations that we need to be having with ourselves. And good luck in how that can help in how you'll be talking about the closed session items today. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next public comment is by the original draw online. Friendly reminder, commenters, this is comments on closed session.
The fact that you guys keep having closed session in the middle of the meeting just really disenfranchises people. I mean, it's not like people know who you are anyway or what you're doing, which is sad because they pay more attention to the federal government than the local government, and seeing how the local government destroys everyone's lives on a continual basis. And you're not equipped to be, hiring more gatekeepers, because you guys are gatekeepers of people's ability to thrive in their own communities, all while you perpetrate as though you are providing things for them, and that it's somebody else that's ruining it for you, or ability to do that when you're not even equipped to provide what people really need. You guys take the money and you basically throw it away, pretending that you're going to make things better. And so once people see that, but anyway, when you guys do things in closed session, it just further shows how you want to obfuscate and not be transparent in front of people, because you're sitting here spending our money to give people, raises or even salaries. And you don't want us to be present to even see what you're talking about in that. And then you're going to be, in human relations, that's another gatekeeper to, even employees' ability to get things done much of the time. Everything is an inversion. If people could just see that, they could see clearly of what's really going on and quit praising people like you guys for doing what you're doing. And then just general counsel, they're just going to be there to, do further protection and allow you guys to be criminals, because no attorneys are really doing their job and saying, like, this is not legal what you're doing. Instead, they find a way to, paint a picture that everything you guys are doing is fine, all while you racketeer with the people's money. And you guys sit up on a dais and all this stuff while there are people suffering and dying. I mean, it's just, it's ridiculous. And you guys need to quit doing stuff like this in the middle of a meeting.
Our last public comment is Paul the Bold.
Okay, Paul the Bold. I thought you did this appointment on October 30th in your special meeting. And if you didn't then, why did you have a closed session? And why are you having closed session in the middle of the meeting? The entire board should vote on this election in the open. We should know all the machinations and qualifications that go into this. Actually, I think the entire county should have voted on this at the general election in November 4th. Especially the parts of the county that are unrepresented by SANDAG. So I do not think this is even a fair selection, fair process. And how are you doing on getting the new voting reps, by the way? The ones for the Native American areas and the one for, or the one or two for the rest of East County. As for the other closed session on personnel and compensation, it sounds like you may be realizing that you are paying too much salary and benefits during the budget crunch. I'm hoping that you keep the salary down and that the results will be made public. Public input is important, and maybe we can even get you to do a lower salary at a later date. Thank you.
That concludes our public comment on this item, Chair. And for the record, the cities of Escondido and La Mesa are present.
Very good. Thank you. Just to clear up a few things for the public, the full executive committee met to do the preliminary interviews for the 5 candidates that were screened to be appropriate for that level of vetting. After that, the full executive committee selected 2 to move forward. We had a special closed session of the full board to interview those 2 candidates. Those 2 candidates were given a lot of time to answer questions, and each member of the board. Then that was when the leadership, after the full board voted and selected the preferred candidate, then the leadership engaged in negotiations with terms and pay. Terms and pay can only be done in public, which we'll do after closed session. Could only be voted on in public after, and that we'll do that after closed session. But we will be going into closed session to discuss those with the full board. And we will then be announcing who the selected candidate is. So with that, we're going to now move into closed session. And I'll ask everyone who does not need to be here for this item to please exit the room. Okay, can everybody please move to your seats?
Yes, ma'am.
I love your jacket. It's like very pretty. How you doing?
I'm excited that we're moving it. I mean, that's how long it takes. It does. I know. It seems like we're kind of. You're here. John got called for me when somebody from Mexico. No, you know, they. Yeah.
Okay, everybody, please take your seats. We are in open session again.
It's true. Let him keep playing. Yep.
All right, welcome back. Rod is now going to cover the reportable actions from closed session. Please go ahead.
Okay. First, the board reviewed and discussed the employment terms and conditions for the general counsel appointment, and the board is going to vote on this item later in this meeting. And second, the board provided direction to staff regarding a possible future update to the SANDAG FY26 position classification salary range table. There will be no action and no vote on this today. That was just a direction to staff. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move to the consent agenda. Michael, do we have any public comments on the consent agenda? And then we will get to the item on the general counsel.
We do have public comment on consent. If you are online, please raise your hand now. On consent, in person, we have 3, and we have 3 online. So first is Truth, followed by Caesar. Please identify what consent item you're speaking to.
Don't tell me what to do. Item 4.1. For the record, Union and crony cowards Manuel and Matthew were absent from 2 SANDAG meetings in a row. I told her not to show up, and for some reason, she wasted our time. Bucky's absent enough that he should just make Chris the primary. Carolina actually needs an alternate if she's going to keep crossing from Tijuana. I think that's what's going on. Why was Joel present for roll call but absent by the vote on consent? Did he show up just for the Panera catering? Item 4.2. Question on the schedules. Who's going to actually abide by them? To show up, never be late? Talk about Esther, Carolina, and not cancel the meetings. None of us ever wanted to be at in the first place. Item 4.3, $2 million in Interg Louisiana is an interesting investment, hopefully not as nefarious as SDG&E. $6.5 million in Amazon is questionable because I'd prefer they just go out of business. $17,000 for one parking lot at this building. Imagine if this building was not located in the city of San Diego. Let's say it was in Santee. You could actually save money and it can add some needed perspective to transportation issues in the entire county. Exactly. Where are the Caltrans $11 million concrete barriers in El Cajon? For something that's going to keep making the Building Construction Trades Council grifters rich, you could at least provide an address. I'd also like a clear definition of what $7 million office and property service actually means. Item 4.4, it says the city of San Diego has gotten a total of $621 million for streets and roads. So where did that go? To council members' pockets? Because it sure as heck didn't go in the roads. And the same goes for Vista. I hope 99% of these driving reduction projects get defunded by the federal government, especially fiber optic cables to electronically control electric computer cars. Item 4.6, who is doing the price estimates on construction? Doesn't staff know everything over $5 million is automatically going to the union grifters who intentionally take forever to do shoddy work? They already proved that with the original Wall 508 hack job. How could staff possibly be underestimating by $4.5 million? What a failure. That is an F.
Next is Caesar, followed by Blair Beekman. Please identify what consent item you're speaking to.
Cesar and Purita. We are good at summarizing all these subjects, and these are all processes and impacts, which we believe they're healthy. Good, better, best. On the minutes, we just would like to get or bring about one pointer. For us seeking help, it only means as our beacon or like a lighthouse seeking help to the city elected officials on our community concern. And this is also connected with the legislative calendar because we attended one of the working committee on community sustainability. We see our life and death experience on this particular working committee, community sustainability. I think that is the heart of a calendar too, considering the crisis that we are having yesterday, today, and expected tomorrow. Right, Mr. Lacaba? Right, Mr. Mayor? Gloria? Councilor Rivera? Thank you, Sandag. This is a kind of discussion made only to reflect as a summary, failure as manifested by the works of the core city elected officials. Thank you, Sandag. Thank you, Uncle Sam.
Next is Blair Beekman, followed by Catherine Rhodes online.
Hi, thank you, Blair Beekman. I just wanted to quickly offer a thank you that for your consent calendar. They are now all under one item on the agenda, item 4 today, and they have sub headings for each item within the number. So 4A, 4B, 4C. Thank you. It makes it a lot neater and easier to understand what's on consent now. So thank you for that.
Next is Catherine Rhodes online, followed by the original draw.
Hello, this is Catherine Rhodes, and I want to say I'm very upset. I'm very upset because I just went online like 5 minutes ago to start coming to this meeting, and I tried to download the agenda package, and there is no agenda package. In fact, there's no PDF of the there's no agenda package. What I would like you guys to do even right now is to change it back to how you had it before, where you have a package like, let's just say if it's 100 pages, it's a PDF with the agenda and all the backup documentation, as you have done for 20 years. So I want to raise my voice. I want to scream at you. I want to say, who did this crappy, junky work, where if you want to see what is in the agenda, everything's kind of online, and I would like you guys to actually go to it. And I want you to change it back. I just looked at November 7th, you had an agenda package, but now for some reason you have this stupid thing where you have to let's just say I want to look at all your your changes in policy. I have to download each PDF. I have to download about 30 different things and then put it together in a package so that I could be able to read it and I could be able to make my comments on the document. So I want the same thing that you guys get. If you guys are getting an agenda package emailed to you, I want the same thing you get. I think this is horrible. I think you're trying to sabotage the public, and whoever did this, please go back and somebody please please respond to me for once of why you're doing this. And anybody just go on to SANDAG.
Thank you, Catherine. Your time has expired. The clerk's office will reach out to you and show you how to access the documents. Thank you. Next is the
and quickly, the board gets the same thing, and we're all adjusting.
Thank you. Next is the original draw online.
Catherine, it's because it's under the guise of betterment. You guys always do stuff under the guise of bettering it. It makes it worse and harder. And you're like, we're trying to adjust because it's harder. Makes it more difficult to access the information instead of downloading one thing and having it all available right there. Instead, you want people to take more time to have to spend, and it's ridiculous. And so just like everything on the consent calendar, I mean, you guys always invert everything because all we have to do is look at the world around us and see that you just, with projects like the wall stabilization, you sit here and you say it's going to cost this much, and then you can never complete something because you're always going to come back and need more money for it, which much of the time engages or has you guys, putting more taxes and different things forward just to make up for the incompetence and your inability to provide things. But that is your job. Like, the world around us isn't what people think. And you sit here and even with your quarterly projects progress and budget update. It's like you have all this propaganda in here. It says it provides an update on the status of the capital program projects throughout the quarterly, whatever, 2026. Our projects help to improve transportation, air quality, equity, the economy, public health, and public safety throughout San Diego region. That's all a bunch of propaganda because that's not what you guys do. You actually put people in danger through all their implementation of your roundabouts and cutting things down, cutting lanes out. I mean, you sit here and you want people to pay more. I mean, you're going to bring in some vehicle mile travel tax at some point, and so is the state. So it's like, and you want all these toll roads. So you actually impede people's ability to travel and get around, all while you're saying you're making it better. But you're not. You're not improving things. And it's like if people just paid attention to that and listen to the things that you say, because you care more about like things like technology and revenue than actually providing things that people need.
Next is Paul the Bold, followed by La Public Comment Consuelo.
Paul the Bold. Wall 508 stabilization as usual. There's no contract attached, no transparency for the public, yet it's grossly over inflation. We're told that this is an emergency project. The original amount was 5.5 million, and now it is estimated at 10 million. And the original award was only 6 months ago. This 2,600-foot retaining wall is located along Santa Fe Street near Damon Avenue, across from the In-N-Out Burger, just north of Balboa, in the Bayho, Claremont area. This is on a project that was actually originally completed in 2020, only a few years ago. There is a flyover posted on YouTube, actually. And this wall is about 22 seconds in, but I didn't see anything near there that looks unstable. While it's within the approved budget, it seems like huge excess, 4.5 million, and then waste to the taxpayer. And I'm really pissed about it. In planned versus actuals, a quarterly progress report. In planned versus actuals, about 40% of the budget amount for FY26 is already expended for the Bayshore bikeways and I-805 auxiliary lanes, about 60% for the SR-125 toll removal analysis and OCS stuff, the cable replacement. Also, 29% for the Del Mar Bluffs 5 project. These unexplained excess costs should be red flags to investigate why so much overspending.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Our last public comment is Consuelo.
Okay, yep, amen to all the previous concerned citizens, and I'm just here, fully present, tuning in to every example of fraud, waste, and conflicts of interest that my county neighbors are too exhausted to track. So it's unfortunate, but yep, just chiming in to say I'm here.
Consuelo,
Yes,
are you
done
with your comment?
Yes, thank you.
That concludes our public comment on consent, Chair.
Very good. And just to clarify for the agenda, I actually like the new way because I can go to each one that I want to, but you can just click on PDF and you can see the whole thing and print out the whole thing if you would like it that manner. Okay, we're now on to board member comments on consent, and I see Mayor Sanchez is up. Move approval. Very good. Second by Carolina Chavez. Yes, Councilmember LaCava.
Since a member of the public did make a specific ask, I think several board members went on the SANDAG website and was able to download the 140-page PDF in quick fashion. So I'm not sure what happened to that particular individual, but it is on the SANDAG website to make sure everybody understands that.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second to approve consent. Please use your devices to vote, 1, 2, or 3. Escondido? Mesa? There you go. Okay. Okay, very good. Now, we'll now move on to the appointment of the SANDAG General Counsel. I would like to start by thanking the board and our executive committee for their thoughtful and very fulsome participation, and our recruiter, which is our own SANDAG Director of Human Resources, Josh Golter, for all the hard work through this process. In a closed session on October 30th, the entire board identified a preferred candidate for the general counsel position. As the agency's designated representatives, Vice Chair LaCava, Second Vice Chair Minto, and I have been working with Josh to direct negotiations with the preferred candidate. I'm going to ask Josh to summarize the key terms and conditions that have been agreed to by our negotiating team and the candidate for the board's consideration. Josh, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. As you heard from the chair, an agreement has been reached. The pertinent points of that agreement are the new general counsel will start on Tuesday, January 6th. The term length will be 3 years with an automatic 3-year renewal. The starting salary will be $315,000 per year. Performance evaluations, an annual performance evaluation will be conducted by the board of directors, and any compensation adjustments will be at the sole discretion of the board. Relating to benefits such as retirement, health and welfare, and paid time off, they're all within the standards of board appointed employees. There's a cell phone allowance, which all other executives receive. There is a reimbursement for relocation up to $10,000. The resignation, if the employee decided to resign their position, they would be required to provide 60 days of notice. And the severance benefit, if the board decided to terminate the candidate without cause, would be 3 months of base pay. That's all I have.
Very good. Thanks, Josh. We'll now move on to public comment.
If you are online, please raise your hand now. In person, we have 2, Cesar Javier, followed by Truth.
Cesar and Purita. As public, senior, and victims of toxicity, we are confused. To qualify as a politician or a city councilor, mayor, etc., there is no educational qualification. And they are here representing our core city, while the other wing qualification must be a Harvard graduate law, accountant, engineers, etc., etc. How do we reconcile this in terms of moral judgment? Madam Chair, Sir Mario. And they are paid. If you're a city councilor, you have $741,000 a year versus our pension. How much do you receive, my dear? And we pay our tax, and yet we cannot enjoy our humble property, Mr. Lakaba. We deserve, as public, to say this because something is wrong. Association of governance, thinkers, tinkering solutions, the best solution. How will we reconcile now? Qualification versus the challenge of decision-making. Interest, intelligent interest in people, San Diegans, survivability. Mr. Lakaba, where are your other colleagues? In thesis writing, in dissertation, we focus on one thing, survivability of people, San Diegans. And this is why we are here.
Thank you, Cesar. Your time has expired. Next is Truth, followed by Catherine Rhodes online.
This inflated contract is absolutely outrageous. $315,000 a year plus premium, everything for 11 months of work when you take away the vacation time. I mean, you're doubling down on your counsel for what? What say did the public actually get? Because I wanted to spend $0 extra. So perhaps this new general counsel should only listen to the public, private individuals such as myself that were right about the corruptive individuals who were plaguing the sport since at least 2018. If Kirk had taken orders from me, he wouldn't even be here right now. He'd be in prison because that's where I would have ordered him to go. On that note, I'm going to welcome the new council to the SANDAG circus. Compared to the past, it should be a decent experience. Is this person already paid for in the contract? Because I'm pretty sure it's extra, right? It's extra because nobody can trust each other. Why the distrust? Does it have anything to do with the corruption that's gone here in the past, the backroom deals, the collusion, the coercion that actually matches what's going on in Sacramento, a $19 billion shortfall, aka overspent tax dollars on everything but what we needed or asked for? SANDAG has done exactly the same thing. Look at the transit tax. Not a single thing promised for the highways has been fulfilled. A culture change needs to happen statewide. The wake-up call was at least 10 years ago. If you didn't wake up in 2020, I don't even know if there's hope for you now. Broken trust is the real issue here, why yet another council is alleged to be needed, along with apathy, kowtowing, compromising to death, and silent consent, almost like you're wearing a mask. Yes, I'm making a bigger statement than your unacceptably vague and overpriced council item because it's a symptom of a root cause that, if left unaddressed, the condition of this board, though currently much improved, will eventually have one member that will send it back into disarray if you fail to close the gaping wound and the downward spiral that emanates from the political parties and their special interest. None of this is normal, and I refuse to pretend that it is. And that is the attitude necessary to change the status quo on councils and everything in between. If you really want to change things, disavow your political party now. Thank you.
Next is Catherine Rhodes online, followed by the original draw.
Hello, this is Catherine Rhodes, and I just want to say if there is a way I could get a PDF easily, I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but if there's a way, that would be wonderful, because this way right here, it's not working for me whatsoever, and I think that it's hurting the public. But maybe there is, maybe I'm just doing it wrong. So anyway, one thing I've been, the other lawyer that you had before refused to get a legal opinion, and this is what I want this new lawyer to do. I want them to get a legal opinion from the state attorney general that San Diego is one of 12 grandfathered airports because it's on reclaimed tidelands, such as New York, New Jersey, Chicago, San Francisco, Hawaii, where you can have, usually you can't use any FAA airport revenue, but because we're on state tidelands, you can. SANDAG used to be in charge of the money from the airport. The last year of the annual comprehensive financial report for the airport, they had an additional 300, even though they have, terminal 1 and 2, they're getting so much money that they actually got an additional $300 million in cash over, revenue versus expenses. So they're loaded with money, and this money can be used for transportation, all transportation, not just this. And then I forgot, 2019, you guys made an agreement with the airport where they were supposed to give you $300 million. You had a press conference. So far, you've gotten zero because you guys refused to go to the FAA airport district officer because in your memorandum of understanding, they didn't say that you can. So hopefully this attorney will do something about that.
Next public comment is the original draw, followed by Consuelo.
Your attorneys are not here to make sure you follow the law. They're there to make sure that you obfuscate the law and, sidestep it. Don't really follow it, but just be able to continue the racketeering that you guys are doing as in proof with the amount of money that you guys get paid to sit up there and destroy everything. All while you sit there and take people's money to give you guys salaries that are so inflated with the quality, in comparison to the quality that we get back in return. People suffer more and more and more because of you guys, yet we pay you exorbitant amounts of money, and the people that pay you are just trying to survive. They're suffering because of your choices, and then we pay you more and more and more money. And so it just shows the racketeering that you guys are doing, and that, you don't really intend to provide the things that people need. We should be giving you guys salary decreases. You should be at the level that you put everybody else at. Instead, you guys get to have these lavish lifestyles in comparison to the people that you represent. And you sit there and you virtue signal like you really care about them suffering. But we have things like you talking about wanting to, provide better air quality. Tijuana River Valley has been in providing horrid air quality, health conditions in people that could have been mitigated decades ago. And so you guys sit here and say you improve transportation. If you had an attorney that was really doing what the people that would help the people get what they need and what you guys say you're going to provide, then the world around us would change. People wouldn't continue to suffer while you guys continue to inflate your salaries and make sure that all the empty promises, are continuing to perpetuate.
Next is Consuelo, followed by our last public comment, Paul DeBold.
Okay, so yes, Consuelo here, and whoever steps into this role needs to understand exactly what they're inheriting: an agency with a long track record of eroded trust, questionable transparency, inflated projections, failed promises, and a public that is growing more aware and more tired of the pattern. SANDAG is supposed to serve the people of San Diego County, but it doesn't. Instead, for years, we've watched decisions that serve agendas, consultants, developers, and global frameworks that most residents never agree to. We've seen misleading revenue forecasts, transportation plans that never materialize, supposed community input that somehow always gets ignored, and programs that drain public funds with little to show for them, except for when they come in begging for the stupid bike lanes, whatever. Okay, so let me plant a seed for the new general counsel. Your job is not to protect SANDAG from the people, but you will. Your job is to protect the people from corruption, but you won't. Deception and misuse of public resources, even when it's inconvenient for the agency you work for. Let's see, you're walking into an agency that has lost credibility, and rebuilding that credibility is only possible through absolute transparency, honesty, and a refusal to rubber stamp the same old behavior. But you won't. And I want you to remember that the residents of this county are watching more closely than ever. We are paying attention. We see the conflicts of interest. We see the waste. We see the decisions being made behind closed doors, decisions that always seem to line up with the United Nations agenda for the 21st century and the 2030 framework, rather than the real needs of local families. And while many of my neighbors are too stressed, overworked, and overwhelmed to stand here and say this, I am here to say it for them.
Our last public comment is Paul DeBold.
Paul DeBold, I will be brief on this one. Welcome to the new council, whoever he or she may be. I was actually hoping you'd be more transparent about announcing a name for someone who will actually regularly show up here at this board in public. The term of 3 years is too long. If the new council, for some reason, starts to favor things like fraudulent construction payments, there should be a way to release him or her. For instance, the $4.5 million increase announced today on a $5,000 estimate is ridiculous, and things like that should be investigated. I hope the new council will do that for us. And $315,000 as a starting salary is too much. The new council should have a chance to prove his or her worth. I was hoping for a short break with your old hiring practices, but I guess we won't be getting it for a while. Thank you.
That concludes our public comment on the item, Chair.
Thank you. We're now into board member comments and Second Vice Chair Minto.
I've been involved in a lot of different hirings, and they're all very similar. You use a research firm that goes out and they find the best candidates they can. They eliminate a lot of them based on lack of experience, other reasons, and they bring to us what they feel is the most qualified candidates. And most of us have sat around different councils for a while, have had a great deal of experience hiring other CEOs, whether they call it a city manager or otherwise. So we do have a great amount of experience of what we need to look for. I find it interesting that the many of the people that make comments and have made comments over the last year talk about the lack of trust, the lack of confidence, lack of transparency over and over and over again. And what I take away from that is what they're saying, or they're yelling or screaming at us, please make a decision that helps take away that lack of all those things. And I believe that the board of directors has heard that. That's why it's taken such a long process to go through this. If you could have sat in, which is required by law, the confidential or the closed session questions that were asked of each of the candidates, you would understand that the board of directors understands we want confidence, clarity, transparency, all of those things that have been asked over and over again by the public speakers here and on the phone or whatever they're calling in on or however they get here. And so all you can do is believe that you've made the best decision possible. It's very competitive to get somebody to work for you at an agency like this, or even at a city or a county level, based on certain levels of salary and benefits. Personally, I think, you know, if you pay a really low wage and somebody says, yeah, I'll take that low wage, you probably get what you pay for. And we can't afford to get what we pay for. We have to get the best counsel possible. I think that we've chosen a person who is going to give us exactly what we've asked for, have a lot of experience elsewhere in the public sector and some in the private sector. I'm very confident that we've made a good decision. And what I would ask of those people that have made comments is, please give us this opportunity to see if we made the right decision, because you never know. You just never know. Based on all of the questions you ask, all the right decisions you think you made, you just never know. At the end of the day, it's just like when you get somebody to work around your house. You never know if they're going to put the 2x4 in the right place until it's placed. So please give us that opportunity, but thank you very much for holding our feet to the fire to do the best that we possibly can, and as ethical and legal as we possibly can. And with that, I'm going to move the recommendation.
Very good. Thank you. Mayor Sanchez.
I'm going to second the
Very good.
motion.
Thank you. Any other comments around the table? I see none. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please vote on the terms and conditions of this contract. Okay, that passes unanimously. So now that the board has approved the terms and conditions and authorized me to execute the employment agreement, after a rigorous set of interviews, I am pleased to announce that Teddy Lowe has been appointed as the new general counsel of SANDAG. He will start in the position on Tuesday, January 6, 2026. And Teddy is here and will be joining us in just a moment. Code name Elvis. Yeah. Good. Congratulations, Teddy. On behalf of the board, we extend a very warm welcome. As you know, this is a very critical role for our agency, and we look forward to working with you to support the agency and to support our region. And I'd love to give you an opportunity to say a few words briefly about your background and anything else you'd like to add.
I did this last time. Thank you, Chair Huebner. I'm extremely excited. I'd like to thank you and all the members of the board. I'm beyond ecstatic about starting my new role here as general counsel. I've already talked to Mario. I think we were mutually aligned in the goals that he set, and then I want to try to lend my experience to try to help them and help each of us to move SANDAG forward and be the best organization, and not only in San Diego but anywhere in the nation. So I'm very excited about this. For those of you who have not met me or don't know me, for about the last close to 10 years, I've been a senior deputy county counsel at LA Metro. I handle a lot of different things there, but my main background is in construction and procurement issues. I've dealt with practically a lot of the issues that are there, and I'm looking forward to helping out Mario and the rest of the team move SANDAG forward. So thank you so much once again. I'm extremely honored.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Welcome aboard, and we're looking forward to your legal advice and your guidance and working with you in all the opportunities in the region. So congratulations. Let's give him another round of applause.
Thank you so much.
I'd also just like to say, while continuing in a role as Deputy General Counsel, I also want to share my deep appreciation for Amberlyn Deaton, who stepped in as Acting General Counsel during this transition. Amberlyn was asked to rise to an occasion at the height of some of the agency's most controversial and pressing matters. Her ability to balance complex legal situations with a neutral, by the law perspective while stepping in to lead the Office of General Counsel Department has been a standout example of quality and dedication. We are fortunate and Amberlyn will remain a core partner to us all. And we are very pleased to have Teddy here as well. So again, at this point, we'll then move on to the board policies and bylaws. Becca and Julie, welcome. Please go ahead.
Thank you, and good morning to you all. So I am going to present most of the policies and changes for you this morning, but also with me is one of SANDAG's consultants, Becca Karpinski, and she's been working with you on modifications that are proposed for Board Policy 1. So I will kick us off, and then I'll turn things over to her. So our goal today is to provide you with an overview of the various policies that are changing. We have 10 board policies plus a proposed change to the bylaws. And rather than going through each change individually, we're going to present them thematically, and then you'll of course have an opportunity to ask us any questions. There. Okay. So starting with the bylaws. The only change proposed to the bylaws is a change that would allow those of you who meet the legal requirements for attending a meeting virtually to be able to get compensation for attendance at those meetings. So that's the only change proposed to the bylaws. As for Board Policy 1, what I'll note before Becca speaks to you is that there were 2 requests at the Executive Committee for modifications to the format of Board Policy 1 when it came to Exec Committee. One of those was to remove a deletion that was accidentally put into the document for one of the Transportation Committee's roles, which is to provide input on various criteria that related to transportation. The other change was to add a responsibility to the roles of the Regional Planning Committee, which is to review and provide recommendations regarding the regional housing needs allocation or assessment. Can't remember which one it is, but it's RENA. With that, I'm going to turn this over to Becca.
Great. Thank you, Julie. It's nice to see you all. I am going to take you on a short side quest to give you some context so you have a little more understanding of why some of the proposals are coming to you for changes to Board Policy 1. So if you remember, I met many of you back in the spring at the board retreat. We kicked off a project then to really look at the governance structure, particularly policy advisory committees and working groups. So I'm just going to walk you quickly through what's happened since then, some of the key themes, because you'll see those reflected directly in the recommendations for changes to Board Policy 1. So if you remember, we started this at the spring retreat, and the purpose was really to make sure that you had all the support you needed to do this really big job, to make all of the sort of planning and coordination decisions for such a huge region. So we started this project to make sure that you were getting what you needed. And I want to just emphasize this very first bullet point. I think it's really important for everyone in the room to hear that everyone throughout this entire project that I've done with you talked about the importance of community, stakeholder, and expert input, and making sure that you're getting that in the most high value way possible. Because the recognition came that the way that the PACs and the working groups have been structured is expensive. So it's about a little over $2 million to run the PACs and the working groups in the structure that they are now. And you all wanted to make sure that you were getting the most value possible for that money. So we did a bunch of research. I talked to 120 people, got input from 120 people who are directly involved in PACs and working groups. You all as board members, I've been to the executive committee twice. We interviewed all the PAC and working group chairs and staff liaisons, SANDAG staff leadership. Everyone involved in a PAC and a working group had an opportunity to fill out a survey. I got so much rich feedback. People had a lot of thoughts on how to make these groups even more effective for you. And then some document review and peer organization. So I'm just going to quickly go through a couple key themes and then kind of show you some of the major, like the high level policy changes that are suggested. So the first theme was really that all work should tie to SANDAG mandates and priorities. Nobody wanted to have their time wasted. So making sure that all of these groups are really focused on what SANDAG needs, what you need as board of directors to make good decisions. Second one, no surprise, everyone wants their time used efficiently, right? So they don't want to be hearing about projects when no one is looking for their input. And that was happening a lot in groups. And so really thinking about what should be the role of both PACs and working groups to provide meaningful input and not just here's an update on this, here's an update on this. You all really highlighted this, but I heard it from everyone I talked to that just more and clearer communication across the groups would be helpful. A lot of what I heard from you was who had input into this? What did they say? Was there obvious consensus or was it a little bit more mixed consensus by the end? The other thing that was highlighted in these conversations is that not all topics and not all important stakeholders have a venue to provide input in the current structure. So for example, there isn't a really clear place to have conversations about risks or a clear place to have conversations about workforce planning or some other topics like that. There isn't really a clear venue to get input from city managers traditionally, which are really key constituent for SANDAG to understand their needs. And so thinking about how to make some adjustments to make sure that all those topics have a clear venue for discussions when they need to be discussed. And then I think the last theme for me is the most important, is just to highlight that the organization of SANDAG has a lot of really fantastic channels to provide input to all of you in your governance decisions and your decisions on projects. You have project development teams, you have project-specific stakeholder engagement processes. That's where a lot of information is gathered, particularly on geographic-specific projects. But what came out pretty clearly from conversations with you and everyone else involved is that as board members, you don't always have quite the visibility into those
what those groups are saying and the advice that those groups are providing, and that more visibility would be helpful. So what has happened is there's been a little bit of a default that like a project is important, has to go to a PAC or a working group. And one of the proposals that's coming sort of broadly from like a mindset proposal is that your PACs are really meant to be places to provide you peer level input on projects where those other groups aren't finding consensus. Right? So if something's a slam dunk and everyone's in agreement, it doesn't need to go to a PAC for a PAC to hear everyone agrees this is what we should do. Before it comes to you, it can come straight to you. So it's kind of cleaning up that process to make sure that those PAC members are really fulfilling the role that they should be fulfilling. These are kind of the overview changes that you'll see reflected in Policy 1. The executive committee, the key change is really expanding the scope a little bit to capture some of those topics that don't have a clear place for conversation, deeper conversation before those topics come to you. So risk management, strategic planning, retention and succession planning, corrective action plan activities, budget and funding strategies, and all of the direct services and operations that are in SANDAG. Those were kind of some of the topics that came up. The Transportation Committee, making sure that they're really spending a lot more time on strategic and future focused discussions and not, as I was saying earlier, projects that are just moving forward and are going fine. The Regional Planning Committee, just really making sure that you're all using the Regional Planning Committee as a fully engaged policy committee for the topics that are outside of transportation. So making sure that that group really has a parallel role in having those deeper conversations, giving you peer level input on land use, housing, and climate resilience. And then the Borders Committee, again, making sure that it's really fulfilling its role to provide you input on things that are relevant and are important to our neighboring communities.
Okay. So I'm going to continue going through the board policy changes, and then we will hear from you. So first, I'm going to talk about board policy 5, sponsorship of events. This particular policy, we've added in some additional internal controls and measures for transparency to make sure that when we do seek sponsors for events like Bike Everywhere Day, that we have a full effort of getting any sponsors we can and making that an open process. We also have a group of policies, board policies 7, 9, and 25, that deal with issues such as the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program, Title VI, and social equity. The federal administration currently in place has issued a number of executive orders and modified grant terms for SANDAG to receive federal funds and told us we need to remove certain language from various documents that we have and programs. And so those changes in 7, 9, and 25 are modifications that we've made to try and recalibrate these policies to be in alignment with federal requirements while still respecting where California law varies. Board Policy 8 concerns legal matters. There's 2 areas that are proposed for change in this policy. One relates to your decision that you just made regarding appointment of the general counsel. And what this policy now does is delineate the roles of the board legal counsel from the general counsel role. And the other change that's proposed is a clarification in an area regarding the settlement authority of the CEO, establishing that he has authority to settle cases at an amount under $50,000. We have 2 policies that are proposed with changes related to capital projects. One relates to relocation when we buy real property, and then the other regarding utility relocation. So for both of these, they've been updated to be consistent with current law. So they're mostly updates and also to bring them into consistency with what staff's practices are. Finally, we have board policies 37 and 38. The debt policy and the state route 125 policy. And executive committee looked at all of these and they were understanding of the need to update the nomenclature and reporting mechanisms that require updating in these two policies. With that, the executive committee has asked for your approval of these changes, and I will turn it back to the chair.
Thank you, Julie. My mouthful, excuse me. We'll now go to public comments.
Thank you. If you are online, please raise your hand now. In person, we have 3 comments. It's Truth, followed by Caesar.
When you guys rather hear Lisa talk with her mouth full? All right, compensation when a board member can't attend in person due to a qualifying reason. Does that mean someone can fake being sick and keep getting paid to be lazy and stay home? I would 100% disagree with that. I also disagree with any board member getting paid who's not mentally present, like Joel and Manuela. Good job on whoever caught the Article 3, Section 5, letter G, mistake with the extra from which. Article 5, Section 1, letter C, what does it mean that an immediate past chair can preside if every member is absent? Does that mean they could just show up and take over the place? How would they even know to show up if nobody's present to inform them? What's the consequence for committees that keep canceling meetings like public safety has done? I look forward to hearing funding strategies at executive committee because I don't think every mayor and or council member even has a funding strategy for their city. Depends on who we're talking about. Again, SANDAG should prohibit any sponsorship materials that denigrate private transportation, such as cars. And SANDAG should avoid sponsorship materials involving distribution of false or grossly misleading information by not promoting public transportation or bicycling as if they are a safe or a realistic mode of travel. And again, I love that SANDAG's commitment to equity lasted only 4 years. Racism and discrimination will never last. It doesn't matter what new name it's given or who it's against. Board Policy 008 on legal matters under Section 1.7.4, there's a space missing between the words action and on claims. Board Policy 021 needs a right of return for all displaced property owners who suffer eminent domain by SANDAG only to have their property never developed. SANDAG shall promote public participation in SANDAG workshops and public hearings. Why is that only the socialist climate cult groups and union minions get all the heads up on SANDAG happenings? You guys have witnessed that multiple times on the biggest projects and hearings. Is there a newsletter people can sign up to? Not that I'd actually do it, but just asking. But I want to thank Joel for not only making noise during the meeting while I'm talking, for being a polite fact checker today. You were right, but I knew what I was talking about. I just worded it incorrectly. Thank you.
Next is Caesar, followed by Blair Beekman.
Cesar and Purita, we have read and reread our Constitution of this great republic. And we are observing these bylaws or the Constitution of SANDAG. And we try to reconcile an element or the 5 elements in rural and urban planning, which is the core interest of governance or by the elected officials. SANDAG is meant for mobility and circulation. Please, Councilor Laqaba, let us learn, and the rest of our city elected officials. We have to learn and see how sophisticated, if I may describe it, the rule of the game in crafting the laws and implementing these laws on mobility, transportation, or circulation, as we term it, in urban planning. The rest of the 4 elements is in the hands of a high school graduate, at least qualification-wise, or to be a mayor, to be a councilor, etc., etc. I hope it's still within the context of this item. Do we have similar sophisticated constitution or bylaws, Councilor Laqaba? Pardon me, why am I saying this to a particular person? This is what we call government of the people, by the people, of the people, public.
Thank you, Cesar. Your time has expired. Next is Blair Beekman, followed by Catherine Rhodes online.
Hi, there you go. Hi, Blair Beekman. Thank you a lot for this item. In the explanations of, your relationships with federal agencies, federal funding, and what federal agencies are doing at this time that you have to coordinate around. I am, in being up in the Bay Area at this time, I have to be cleaning out my storage space, so I'm kind of up there. It's going to take a while. In the Bay Area, the San Francisco mayor and the San Jose mayor had an important role, along with tech companies, in helping Trump. They had conversations together that involve good reasoning to ask and for Trump to not employ new federal agents and customs agents into San Francisco Bay Area, like with Chicago, like with LA. Man, that took conversation and dialogue and good reasoning. They described what we are doing while in the Bay Area. We are working on violent crime issues. We're working on a number of issues. Just through conversation, Trump was able to agree. And I think it was a real breakthrough in how other cities can begin a dialogue, and that the federal administration can see good reasoning, and how we learn to practice that now together. I'm interested how that can grow. And here in the San Diego area, I think that centers around over militarization of ICE agents. They do not have to come in with 10 tons of artillery to do a job. And I think if we make that point clear to them, that builds trust, it builds community, it builds compassion. And so good luck how we can be working on compassionate agreement about issues. I think there's a way to do that with the Trump administration and the federal things right now. We got to find those ways to do it. Good luck in our efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. We have 5 public comments online. This is Catherine Rhodes, followed by Will Rodriguez Kennedy.
Hello, this is Catherine Rhodes. And first I want to welcome your new counsel, Teddy Lowe. You come from Los Angeles Metro, where you had to work through a lot of active faults in your lines. And, and so here in SANDAG and all of San Diego County, they literally ignore Alquist Priolo laws. And SANDAG actually spent like $40 million to buy property where they were going to put your headquarters on an actually active fault. It's crazy. So your policy 008, a legal opinion. I've been asking for a legal opinion if you guys, violated the Alquist Priolo law. And when I went to your audit committee, they just basically blew it off, pretending that the laws were not violated. It's crazy. And then you also have the board policy 025, which is public participation, environmental justice, enforcement of environmental laws, regulations, and policies. That's not happening. For example, on consent, there was a wall 508 stabilization. Instead, for that area, I kept on saying you have to do a fault investigation, but SANDAG only did a literature review and said fault investigations would be too expensive. After that, they found 3 active faults, and I believe like the project, like 20% increase in the whole entire Mid-Coast Corridor project, an insane amount because they refused to follow the law. And hopefully you can force SANDAG not only to do a geotechnical investigation and boring for this project, but also an actual fault investigation. Otherwise, with the ongoing fault creep from the Rose Canyon fault zone, the Elvira to Marina double track may fail again. You might make this whole entire project and spend millions of dollars in it.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Next is Will Rodriguez Kennedy, followed by Paul DeBolt.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, Will Rodriguez Kennedy, Chair of the San Diego County Democratic Party, but I'm here on something that's really shouldn't be partisan, but here we go. When the staff member explained that the administration told them to change certain language in our policies, what they did not say is that Donald Trump, the president of the United States, who is not supported by the vast majority of this region, told them through his executive branch to do that. Okay, Congress has appropriated funds for the specific purpose to do the things that you want to do with grants and whatever. And we as a region have to decide when we are going to stand up to the administration when they do tyrannical things like this. If you vote to change the rules of your body because the tyrant in power told you to, you are bending the knee to the administration in defiance of everything that we believe in this region. So I will tell you that at some point, elected officials have to decide whether or not whose side that they are on. And this is some stupid conflict that the administration has decided to engage in. But the idea that we should leave disadvantaged people behind because the people in power have said so is a bending to fascism that I have never seen before and we should not do it. So I encourage everyone to either push back that portion of the policy changes to have a more robust discussion about it, or to vote that part down, because it would be absolutely insane for us to just yield to the racist approach that the administration has decided to take. Congress gets to appropriate this money, and right now the leadership of Congress has bent the knee to the president, but you don't have to. So make sure you vote and choose whose side you are on. Are you going to be on the side of the people, or you're going to be inside of mean-spirited people who are literally
Thank you. Your
trying to
time
remove
has
that language?
expired. Next is Paul the Bold, followed by the original draw.
Paul
Go ahead,
Bowl,
Paul.
welcome aboard, Teddy Lowe. In the updates, I see proofreading issues, but more seriously, it looks like you're still hiding things from the board and the public. The first slide highlights community input, but the research was limited to SANDAG people only. You need a new policy at the ports of entry that everyone will be subject to search, including those who run it. About 12 Border Patrol officers were arrested in another state for drug deal conspiracy, and now 2 in San Diego. So everyone should be subject to search, not just us workers and commuters. Policy 1, Section 3.1.3. The Exec Committee should weigh in on all financial transactions, particularly those over 500K, where fraud has a greater impact. Indeed, this is part of Section 3.1.8, making decisions related to risk planning or budget and finance strategies. Policy 5. Everyone should be able to recommend funding strategies or review materials for compliance with policy. That's free speech, and that's how you get good ideas. Policy 21, Section 2.5. SANDAG should not be allowed to rent out property until it has title. This section should be deleted. Policy 25, Section A.8. It would be good to specify at least one news service where you publish things. The San Diego Union Trib is probably the best and most
Thank you,
widely
Paul. Your
read.
time has expired. Next is the original draw, followed by our last public comment, Consuelo.
This just furthers fraud, waste, and abuse. You guys talk about transparency and that your new general counsel is equipped to settle $50,000 or less on his own. And you guys should have been transparent about who you were selecting, because Teddy Lowe, being county counsel in LA, is part of protecting the child trafficking network that happens through HHS and Department of, Health and Human Services, or Human Services, or Child and Family Wellbeing, whatever it is called up there. County council is engaged in protecting that organization, allowing fraud to be entered into reports, allowing abuse to go unchecked and uninvestigated, to make sure that families are ripped apart. So if you guys would have been more transparent and been giving names, because I would beg to, object to what you were saying, because how can you guys be trusted when you don't even give the public an opportunity to tell you information that would be beneficial to you guys making a decision? And you guys don't even want to acknowledge the child trafficking network that is in not only our county, but this entire nation and throughout the world. And it is the largest child trafficking network that exists, that is being protected, that is abusing children, that is bringing more detriment to them than anything, all under the guise of protecting them. So everything you guys do is inverted, and you don't want to be transparent, because then things like this would come out and you would see that you are making an egregious decision when you allow people like this who are engaged in something like that to come in and protect you guys further. So it just shows that all of the corruption gets protected by the people that we pay. We pay you to be corrupt. We pay you to protect yourselves, all while people suffer at the choices that you guys make, like I continue to say.
Our last public comment is Consuelo.
Consuelo here. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm just honestly chiming in to just say how unbelievable, in response to the caller before Paul, it's more like, when are the people going to drop the party system and actually stand up to the system that has us all where we're at now, divided, sick, stressed, barely making it. And it's so funny how people are wow, data slaves. And as far as the fascism stuff, do you mean like before, how the people, like when the people were forced to take an experimental shot delivered at warp speed by the same orange man you're calling a fascist? You took his shot, but now you hate him. Okay, makes a lot of sense. Anyways, yeah, that's all I wanted to say. It's just funny how people don't really know what fascism is, but like to throw that word around. Never once addressed it while the small family-run businesses were forced to close down. But yeah, anyways, okay. I'm done.
That concludes our public comment on this item, Chair.
Thank you. Mario, did you want to make a comment?
Yeah, I want to make a couple of clarifying notes. Policy number 9, a lot of the changes that are proposed came from an audit from FDA, and that's where some of the recommendations. The changes related to DBE, it comes related to an interim rule that was issued by DOT, which what I'm being told is has the weight of law. So that's how we were complying with that. In the subjects related to DEI are more related to a DOT administrative letter that came out and that we're trying to be in compliance. All these items are to be in compliance to continue receiving federal funding. As you have seen in our budgets, we normally receive, and I'm going to give you just a round number, about 40% of the budget of SANDAG is federally funded. It would equate, and again, don't hold me to the numbers 100%, but about $500 million of 500 million of the budget. So I'm just putting that out there. We continue to have the spirit of inclusiveness and going forward with public participation. A lot of the other changes, are to reflect the reorganization of the agency and the titles, as well as in this ever-changing environment of groups that are protected, they're not protected, in state ruling and federal ruling. What we did is we also just tried to say protective groups and not list them, because depending the day and the time of the day, those descriptions change. So we're just trying to be throwing that net and being in compliance as we're moving, and not having to come in with different changes to the board policies. I know it's a complex subject, and it has, you can weigh many ways or view it in different ways. The spirit of staff was just to be in compliance in order to continue receiving federal funding. That's what I have to say, and we're welcome any questions.
Very good. We'll start with Board Member Supervisor Aguirre.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I'd like to start my comments by thanking staff and the Executive Committee for their important work in cleaning up our bylaws, especially around our governance structure, streamlining board policy number 1, clarifying legal counsel roles, and bringing our bylaws and committee assignments into alignment with real practice. So I appreciate that work. These are significant improvements, and I appreciate the intentional approach to improving governance. But there are other changes before us today that require, I believe, a deeper conversation. We're operating under rapid changes to federal civil rights law. The Trump administration's Department of Transportation has reinterpreted the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, or DBE, program and weakened federal guidance on the Equal Employment Opportunity protections. The purpose of DBE was simple: ensure that minority-owned, women-owned, and small disadvantaged firms actually had a seat at the contracting table. As I read our policy changes, I'm painfully aware that we have lost, at least for now, a powerful tool promoting equity for historically disadvantaged groups. Changes to the EEO policy, even if federal and state aligned, pose a real moral issue. When sexual orientation disappears from an explicitly protected group under policy 009, when Hispanic, African American, Asian, and Native American communities in policy 25 are replaced with language blanketly targeting everyone, when Spanish translation requirements are swapped to read other language as appropriate, we lose a degree of specificity that centers our data and decision-making. Equity fades the moment we stop saying who it is for. Because so much of our transportation funding flows through the FHWA, the FTA, the FAA, we must comply with federal law to keep projects moving. That part is very clear. But what's less clear today is how much of these proposed policy changes are truly required, and how much reflects a reactionary and federally driven shift away from the spirit of DEI that this board has historically embraced. I support the governance cleanup, the clarity around legal counsel, and the addition of RENA to regional planning committee responsibilities. And I understand the need for compliance to protect federal funding, but I can't support these changes if they go beyond what is required. And currently, it is impossible to make that determination without further information. Changes to policy 7, 9, and 25 remove the explicit language, outreach and engagement commitments, and data visibility that helped us protect and engage the very communities most impacted by these transportation decisions, especially in a time when trust in public institutions is fragile. So I urge us to look at other options. We wouldn't be the first agency to push back. The state is pushing back. The county's exploring our options. We've all received those letters telling us what to do. But I think this is a moment of moral clarity where we need to have a further and broader discussion and not erase the very people that we are here to serve. So with that, I'd like to move to continue the vote on the proposed amendments to Board Policy 7, 9, and 25 to a future meeting so that we can direct staff to return with a report that identifies for each of these 3 policies the amendments that are required to maintain compliance with federal and state law, and federal funding requirements, the amendments that are discretionary or exceed what is legally required, and a justification for the proposed changes to that policy language. And the report should clearly distinguish mandatory compliance updates from policy decisions made here at SANDAG's discretion.
I want to second.
Second.
And I'd like to see also an exploration of other options, including legal action, and look at our Attorney General at the state to see what they are doing as well. And I'll just close by saying our region deserves stronger protections than federal minimum. And I appreciate your time, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Julie, do you want to respond to anything that the request that Supervisor Gary has made? I know you've done some of this, you've done all of this work. You wrote the original bylaws and policies, and now you're updating them.
Yes, so just a couple points. So first of all, I believe sexual orientation was mentioned as being removed from Board Policy 9. It actually is still in Board Policy 9 on page 1 of the policy, along with the list of a lot of other protected classes. And we did remove the list of all these different protected classes from several of the policies because of this issue of it being a changing landscape. The other thing I will mention is I did receive a call from Supervisor Aguirre's staff yesterday, or actually I called them back. And after hearing the concerns, I did make another effort to go through Board Policies 7, 9, and 25 to look for any change that was discretionary versus consistent with requirements that are in place due to current law. And there are no changes that are not required by law. So we can certainly do a supervisor here is requested, but I don't expect it's going to come with different results versus for comparison purposes of what's required and what's discretionary.
Can you bring at least a legal option?
Do you mean a legal option of
exploring what legal strategy would have to not make any changes?
As far as a discussion of the risks associated with
Correct.
that, the legal risks and the ramifications.
And a strategy.
And a strategy for opposing that, yes. Certainly, I'm sure the Office of General Counsel can do that if that's directed by the board.
Also, Supervisor, we can go back and analyze what you're requesting. And a couple of clarity points also, like the DBE program, we follow what the state has an agreement with the federal government. And they're the ones who set the parameters on the DBE program. We are following guidelines that have been coming out from also the state in compliance with the federal rulings. But we can go back and try to be more clarified. All these items, like I said at the beginning, I understand it's a sensitive issue. I also wanted to clarify the point that we edited Spanish on translation and put all the appropriate languages because it was spelled out that it was only providing the Spanish translation. And of course, there are so many other communities that may have other groups or other languages. So that was the spirit on that change. But we definitely can go and do that evaluation and prepare some sort of a comparison.
Wonderful, thank you. And I believe I had a second.
Yeah, 2 seconds. Who did you capture as the second, Chavez or Cazares? Okay, Chavez. All right. Okay, we'll continue with our speakers. We have Mayor Jones on the board.
Thank you so much, Chair. I actually had a couple of, I had a question, a clarification, I guess it would be, on Board Policy 38. So when we're talking about the operating and maintenance expenses, I just did want to make sure that at the point in time where we are going to pivot and end the toll, that we're just addressing, and it seems like the operating and maintenance expenses part of that does address this, but I wanted to make sure that it would be acceptable to Caltrans, that it would be back to the original conditions that would be acceptable to Caltrans. It seems like it's addressed, but I just wanted to double check. I didn't know if we needed some clarification on that one. Because at some point, we're going to be eliminating the toll, but at that point in time, do we need to have anything addressed in here that we will make sure that it's ready to go with the toll money, maintaining it to the point so that when we pass it off to Caltrans, it'll be 100% ready on that?
Well, according to the terms of the development franchise agreement, as I recall them, since I worked on that transaction many years ago now, we are required, and Caltrans would require, as happened with the Coronado Bridge, that all debt was paid and the facilities were ready to go with the proper equipment when turned over to Caltrans. So I believe that is covered already in that agreement.
Okay, I just wanted to double check on that. And then addressing Supervisor Gary's comments, you know, we have about $500 million of funding that we have at risk. I just want to be sure that we're not putting ourselves in a position where we could, and listen, we as a board, we as cities, we as the county, we don't get to decide if we're following state law or federal law. We do have to follow it. And I'm very cognizant of that. That's why, you know, when, I never put anything on my agenda that tries to fight that, because I have to comply at the end of the day, and I don't virtue signal. But I guess my point would be, where would the lawsuit monies come from? Would that be, if we were to file a lawsuit, would that come from projects that we are supposed to be delivering to our communities, or how does that work?
The agency does have a contingency reserve, and litigation is one of the appropriate uses of those funds. As far as that decision, though, that would be something the board would have to weigh in on where those funds would come from exactly.
So, okay, and then because I mean, the way that I look at it, we have contingency funds that we have to use on everyday things that we might have a lawsuit on to protect ourselves. I would not be in favor of taking any money that potentially would be monies that could come from us just protecting ourselves on everyday things to fight the federal government, when at the end of the day, we're going to have to comply. That's how it works. We have to comply with federal law. We have to comply with state law. Sometimes they conflict, which is a bit of a bummer, but it is reality. So I would not be in favor of that. You know, we're in a tough situation, and you know, I want to make sure that we're spending our money wisely. And I don't think as a lawsuit to fight the federal government would be something that I could support.
Thank you. Councilmember Casares.
Thank you. So I think what is kind of happening here is that we're equating federal statutory law with departmental regulations and executive orders. I understand that it's coming from a desire to protect the federal funding that we receive, that we do need to operate SANDAG. However, I think it's really important that to the best of our ability, we're following federal statutory law, not just department regulations or executive orders that, quite frankly, are coming out willy-nilly based off of things that people in office are hearing from fear-mongering tactics, from the internet, et cetera. And I think that it would be unacceptable for us to just roll over. That doesn't mean I think we should sue the federal government or anything like that. That can come if we end up getting funds withheld, and you know, we can talk about that. But the reason that I thirded this motion by the supervisor is because this was not clearly laid out to show what is federal statutory law, what are departmental regulations, what are executive orders. And I am confident that Julie and Becca have already done that themselves while they were working through it. But I think for us to make a clear, informed decision, we need to have that as well. As someone who falls into a few of these protected classes myself, and was elected by, the entire city of La Mesa, I think that it's really important that all of us are showing care and making sure that we understand what we're voting on. And because of that, I cannot support the item today, but I am definitely supportive of the supervisor's request. I will say there are also a couple of good things in here that I am excited about. One of them is actually in Board Policy 009 on 5.2, and it's extending the amount of time someone has to allege a discriminatory action from 10 days to 180 days. I think giving 6 months is really wise, and it prevents people from acting out of fear and not coming forward with those allegations. I think that will ultimately protect SANDAG in the long run, because we, will not have to act on something that somebody wasn't able to come forward and then deal with potential more severe repercussions later. We end up with more closed sessions, et cetera. So one last thing, I know we took out Spanish, that just said other languages. Something that I would suggest instead would be to use the County Registrar of Voters list of like their languages. They've got, I think it's 6 or 8 basic languages that they provide materials in. And I think it would be great if we could maybe list those languages, and then we could say, and others as requested. But I think instead of removing one, it would be great. I know there are at least 6 languages that are spoken regularly in this region. Thank you.
Great idea. Thank you. Councilmember Chavez.
I also want to thank staff for all the hard work that goes into this, and I appreciate it so much. And as the reason why I second this, the supervisor's motion is that I want to make sure that we are not, as was mentioned, interpreting executive mandate as equal to federal statute. I understand we can't fight federal government, but I also understand that this is not about us, but the people we represent. The uniqueness of this region sets us aside from the rest of the nation. Let's always be sure to highlight that. I want to emphasize how important it is that we continue to uphold our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's just good governance across the board. I don't understand why anyone would want to disfranchise that. As representatives of this an incredible diverse region, we have a responsibility to ensure that every resident has the chance to participate in the major projects that shape the San Diego County. We should take every opportunity that still exists to involve our communities in equitable and meaningful ways. I fully support the supervisor's motion and believe we should continue exploring all options to protect and uplift everyone in our region. So with that, I'm happy to second.
Very good. Councilmember Downey.
It's still not on? Okay. A question about policy number 1. I echo everybody. Thank you very much. The work that was done in this and the realigning of the packs, I think is going to be beneficial to everybody. But I just had a question. At some point, would we be able to see a chart so that I know what's coming to regional planning isn't also then going to transportation, then going to, I just like to, so that we can get what I think the contractors heard, that we all just want to know where things go and how it fits. So I'm not asking anything to withhold it. I'm just saying at some point that I think would be helpful.
Okay. Mayor Snow.
I'm going to follow in support of the proposed motion. The Chevron ruling by the Supreme Court last year kind of gave us room to be able to explore options here. These are not statutory changes. These are interim rules from the Department of Transportation and an administrative letter. And I think that there is ample room because of the overturning of this Chevron decision by the Supreme Court for us to take a harder look at this and see if we are still within actual existing federal law. And I think that that ambiguity is something that is worth exploring. This is not just a change to language. I'll point my other board members to page 88 of the packet. And it says, SANDAG will maintain a disadvantaged business enterprise program if and when required by a federal agency. So we're not just saying, hey, let's get rid of language that this president might find problematic. We are actually getting rid of a program that supports small businesses. Coming from a community that is the most diverse community, second only to the city of San Diego in our county, coming from a community that's bread and butter, most of our businesses are small businesses. This is the way my community competes. A lot of our communities look just like my community. A lot of my communities have small businesses run by people who normally don't get a seat at the table. And so getting rid of this program and only doing the right thing if and when the federal government requires it, that's bad. It doesn't seem like this is what we should be doing. It is not merely a change of language, but it is the actual dismantling of a program that helps benefit communities throughout this region, small businesses throughout this region. As the chair of the social equity working group, this is something that I would like my working group the opportunity to be heard and discussed, and that my working group might be able to inform the body of what the different organizations in our communities also believe. So that's an additional reason why I'm supporting postponing this until we're able to look at further options and review our legal options. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Snow. Councilmember Shin.
Thank you. I'm going to change subject for a second, but get back on it again before I lose my mind. So, okay, you stated in one of the key findings that for communications between working groups, but do you also mean like communications between not just working groups, but all the way back to the board of directors? And I say that because I can't watch every single PAC and working group, and but I don't get the feel or any of the results or any of the talking points from that. Is that something that we're going to be working on to get that communication to us so that when we're ready for an agenda item, we can kind of interpret it in their perspectives as well?
We can do that.
Yeah.
We can work on enhancing our communications and information packages. I think it's going to be a work in progress of trying to understand the level of need and appetite of each board member's information that's needed, right? Some may have a substantial amount of information that they wish, others may not have that need. So we'll have to figure that out, engage it and work with all of you, trying to understand what's that level of wish and appetite of the information, detailed information that was discussed at the PACs. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. I just, I've noticed from some working groups, they state that they go, did you hear us talk? And I go, no, I didn't. I'm not going to listen to like your 90-minute conversations and every single one of them. So I can't. And so sometimes I feel like we lose the sense of that meeting when we're trying to make decisions here. So it would be great to just get like summarized points, or if they want to give input and then maybe as a working list and then they could email it to us by the end of their meetings so that we can just see what took place. Just some way to just feel like there's a lot of like an open channel.
Yeah, give us an opportunity to work with you and the other board members and understand. In some occasions in the past, I remember that the chair of the working groups or the PACs would come and present the item. But let us reach out to you and understand kind of where you're coming from that need, and also we'll engage with other board members and see also how we can calibrate.
Gotcha. Moving back to this conversation, I think the issue that I'm finding is that we're finding a lot of, this is what we're discussing right now is a part of a confusion of a whole groups of confusions that I'm dealing with right now on a federal level with executive decisions. It's really, really difficult because every day something changes And then when there's pushback, you're getting pushback quite a bit back. And we're noticing not just through the Supreme Court, but just through constitutional acts that some of these things are just, they're not either jiving or they're not communicated well. And so getting this clarified, I think, is the biggest thing. Do we jeopardize? Yeah, but we also jeopardize probably the aspects of, you know, what the federal system is about. So we should take a pause on some of these things and really get guidance on, you know, what needs to take place moving forward. Laws can be made and changed, but when it comes to the executive decision making, it's so quick and it can be so wrong that we don't want to risk ourselves of all of a sudden doing something that's uncompliant within not just like our county and state, but like our constitutional aspects. I'm seeing this in other arenas. I'm seeing this in the business arena. I'm seeing this in detainment arenas. And so here it's just more the DOT, which is, you know, a lot less tragic, but it would be really nice to ensure that we're not doing this just that we're doing this appropriately, we're doing this ethically, and we're really representing all the people here in the county of San Diego. So I'm in support of that motion as well. I'll fifth it or sixth it.
Thank you, Mayor Sanchez.
Thank you. I had a question first. Is the DEI issue, is that with respect to the directives, is this a time-sensitive issue?
So in order to accept grants, right now from the federal government, we're required to sign contractual agreements stating that we will not use DEI programs in any aspect of our business, not just federally funded, but all. So it's not, there's laws and then there's contractual requirements. So the timing is just such that we might have an issue with federal funding. We'd have to check with.
Do we have any deadlines with respect to receiving or accepting or applying for federal dollars that are coming up?
I think we're going to have to come back to you specifically on each individual grants that we have so many going through the pipeline. I would venture to say that there may be some in the pipeline that were being required. We don't have the exact listing, but we can get that. And part of the analysis, I think Supervisor's asking is really holistic on laws, regulations, policies, but also that risk assessment from our part to present to all of you what is specifically in jeopardy. And then we just put it out there and you can all discuss it and evaluate it. So what I'm hearing is that
my question is that the request is for a continuance initially, and then secondly, discussion about what that continuance would entail. So the first part about the continuance, would we be risking anything, any kind of funding, should we grant the continuance or vote in support of the continuance?
Or is this contract by contract versus policies? Is there a distinction there? Just so, like you mentioned, Julie, that we have to sign contracts now, but what we're looking at is the overall like policies of the board, which is different than contract by contract.
In other words, if there's a deadline that which, if you're looking at some contracts right now, if you do not sign it by a certain date, are those funds lost? Or is that contract lost?
Again, I would have to defer to the CFO. I'm sorry, I don't know the answer.
Normally we're talking about policies and that empowers staff to do certain things. If it's not in the policies, and Don will help me explain more items. When you get a grant, in addition to all the policies we have, the federal government requires us to do a funding agreement in order to receive those grants and sign it. The potential point of conflict that you're bringing up is that if what we're being asked to sign goes in conflict with the existing policies, it creates
No, I guess
pinch
my-
point for staff.
I think
And
my question
yes,
is a lot more basic. My question is, are we at risk of losing any funding just based on the continuance, request for continuance, because there are deadlines that would be passed and then we would lose that grant or that contract?
Don, and then I can follow up.
I would say that would take probably some more in-depth look, but I think
Okay.
what we really run the risk of here, honestly, we may be able to mitigate with some sort of a decision document that, indicates these are still being, worked on or discussed,
Processed.
but that our processes and what we are putting in our contracts is compliant. So that's where we may have some misalignment. The existing
Right.
policy may be not exactly aligned with how business will need to be taken care of. But I think that can be mitigated by records in the file. This is the type of thing that comes up in the audit committee all the time and that comes up in the board in our audits, is where we're not following our own policies. But I think there are ways to mitigate those off-ramps to make sure that we're receiving the grants that we need to keep the projects moving.
Well, I want to say that was my first issue. My second basically is this. This is not the first time that this issue comes up. I've already I sit on another board. This issue has already come and gone with a lot of attorneys looking at this. And the board, there were millions and millions of dollars at risk. I don't know if it's as much as $500 million, but I will say this. We are unique, County of San Diego. We are a very diverse community, including military families and veterans, and whatever we do or don't do in terms of projects have an impact on those families. I will not put at risk any projects because the community expects them. The community actually hopes that we can do more. And these are communities that are, I won't say limited income, but certainly not at, high incomes where they could just, well, I'll just take my car to work, or I'll just fly here, or take, whatever other modes of transportation. But I believe that we are already at a place, and of course we need more, we can do more, but where we are saying as an organization that we are inclusive, as part of the being of this organization, words and actions. Actions are actually are putting the commitments that we have made to our communities for these projects, whether they affect our kids going to school on safe routes, or whether it is trying to move people to work so that they can easily find better jobs. These are extremely important commitments, and I will not put those at risk. My first thing is, and I agree with our CEO. I do not believe that a continuance will result in any changes, but there is, I guess, a hope that it might. So if it's not going to damage our situation, or it's not going to mean losing funds, then I'm willing to agree to a continuance, but I will not vote to put any funds at risk because our communities depend on them. $500 million. I do not believe we could we'd be able to fix that in any time in the future. We could not come back and be in this situation to be able to build the kind of infrastructure that we're really talking about to help people now. Thank you.
Thank you. First Vice Chair LaCava.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate the comments of my colleagues. Julie and Becca, I appreciate the good work that you did. I want to make sure that it is understood that the very good work that you did, the executive team work did, and the executive committee did, was actually with a deeper understanding that we were focusing on mandatory as opposed to what discretionary changes, and that the values that this organization has built up to date is in no way being compromised by that. It is a game being played in Washington, and we know how to play that game without compromising what our values are and protecting underrepresented individuals and making sure that we adhere to those values. As many have said, a lot of these changes seem to change daily, weekly, monthly. And I appreciate the mayor kind of asking the question that I had in my mind. It's November 21st. This was really a bucket full of policy updates, cleanup, bookkeeping kinds of things, and now has had one or two or three of the policies really risen to a much deeper policy conversation as opposed to the cleanup, which I think was the original intent going forward. But I don't want anybody to walk out of here thinking that SANDAG doesn't care about this and that board members from the varied positions that we all take on various issues that we have compromised in any way. To that point, a couple of thoughts. One, given some of the reaction to the supervisor's thoughtful motion, how quickly we can bring this back to the board. I don't think December 12th is a good day to bring this back, but I think our next meeting is January 9th. Do we think we can commit to, which is, I think that's the next board meeting.
We'll bring something in front of the board as soon as possible, early January, maybe the 9th or maybe the subsequent, but we will have it. For us, it's very important to also keep things moving and not put them in jeopardy, and to provide the board all the information needed to make an objective decision.
Okay. And then the other question that was somewhat implied by the Mayor Sanchez's question, has SANDAG been approached by any federal department, administration, individual that, hey, you've got a problem here, you better fix it?
And that was part of my clarifying comments that I made after the presentation. We're reacting to the interim rules and to the administrative guidance. We are reacting on policy 9, specifically to an audit from FDA, specifically what you mentioned about the date extending. Actually, that came from FTA, excuse me. So policy 9 is one that we were approached by during the audit, the triennial audit of FDA, and we were requested for some changes, and they're reflected in what we have there. The other ones are a reaction to the interim ruling and to the administrative guidances or the DOT letters that have come out.
Okay, so I think I can interpret saying we've not been approached directly by somebody. Okay.
Only on number 9 as a reaction to the triennial audit.
Okay. I would ask the maker of the motion if we could make one, what I think is a small change, because I don't want to get a no vote because someone thinks that we're giving direction to pursue legal. So if we could change it to provide analysis of alternative strategies, so that no one says, oh my God, I don't want the board to be sounding like we're giving authorization, because there's could be lots of alternative ways. And even if it's, you know, amicus briefs kind of things.
Yeah, I'm okay with that friendly amendment.
And I was so second.
Okay. And I would like to put a date, but I'll respect the hardworking staff and how much you have to be doing, especially through the holidays.
We will get on it. I just, you know, the holidays are in the middle of us. So we also need to let our employees charge their batteries.
Okay. Yeah, I know sometimes we can forget that when we take off. So with that, thank you, Supervisor Aguirre, for making that, and I'll be supportive with that.
Point of information, does I don't remember if the motion only continues that part of the whole presentation.
Yeah, see number 2.
Okay.
And I'm gathering the motion also includes number 2. Yeah.
Can you clarify the amendment?
It's right up there.
Oh, it changes it from legal strategy to alternative strategies.
Okay.
Just so that there's not some implication that we're authorizing legal action.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, Mayor Gasterlin.
We've been struggling with this at the university, and it's been awful. So this board has a chance potentially to help in other ways beyond this board. So I want to thank Supervisor Aguirre for bringing this up in this way. And I look forward to the analysis that staff is going to do. It's been painful at the university backing off of paying attention to a person's background, to their economic background, to the challenges that they've overcome. Our university environment has changed, and the federal grants that we rely on, which is a considerable, it's billions of dollars, not just 500, $500 million. I mean, for all the research that goes on at University of California, San Diego. So thank you.
Mayor Ehlers.
Yeah, first I'd like to second what Councilmember Shin's concern about communication enhancement. I couldn't agree more. It would be great to have some summary that we could refer to from the working groups to the PACs and then the PACs to the boards. I felt like that's been a missing link. And then on the subject we've been talking about the most, I support retaining our ability to challenge federal policies. But I also, there's a parallel here that I think is quite interesting. As I've been challenging in my city, challenging state policies, everybody's been telling me, you can't challenge state policies. They can't be challenged, but we can. And therefore I support our ability to, and retaining our ability to challenge federal policies just the same. But with that, there come risks. And I think, Mayor Sanchez, you hit it right on the nose. You know, it's $500 million at risk. I'm immediately drawn to the parallel my city faced when we wanted to challenge an approval of a project, and we had a direct threat letter from the state, HCD, saying they would decertify us, as I like to call it, the nuclear option. And I think what we're getting threatened with here is the federal equivalent of the nuclear option. And we need to step carefully. So although I do support this and I'll support the motion, I do think we have to be very, very careful what we do. And I appreciate Councilmember LaCava's addition here to kind of de-escalate a bit on the wording. I think that's a good idea. So with that, thank you.
Second Vice Chair Minto.
Yeah, just real quick on the communication part that's been talked about. What we used to do a long time ago is that we would also get in our packet, a summary of the minutes from a policy advisory committee. And then we definitely had the chair of that policy advisory committee actually give testimony before us on what the discussion was and why they reached perhaps a certain recommendation, because that makes it easier for us. Because you know what? It's all vetted out and argued and debated and everything before it ever gets to us. And then we would normally ask clarifying questions of the chair.
Challenge with that this year is that there are no chairs on the board. Because except right now today, we have one chair here today. Well, our alternate. Okay, Mayor Jones, you're up.
Thank you, Chair. I do like the change in the verbiage, but I do have a question. Is there any way by our next meeting, we would be able to find out if we have any monies that are currently in jeopardy? Because kind of to Mayor Sanchez's questioning, I don't think it's very clear. Are there current grants that are at jeopardy that are outstanding where we could get a clawback? Or we could get an outright, just losing the money overall? Is it possible to get that by our next meeting? Because that to me, I mean, at the end of the day, the money is $500 million is a lot of money.
We can get you, we have an idea of what's on the pipeline and what needs to be going through on the pipeline for obligations and funding agreements. So we will work on that and we'll get you that information, especially those ones that if something pops up to be at risk, for sure.
And then just to iterate, we are also planning on having all of this come back the first meeting of January, which was what I think you said, the 9th or something like that.
That's our goal. You know, we will work very hard. Yes, we will come, right? And we'll give you as much information as we have at that time. How I envision this is probably having a matrix, and basically the matrix talking about why are we inputting this and what are we following, and then maybe on another column putting in what are the grants that could be potentially at risk, and then it's basically a risk analysis that we will be bringing up, an analysis of why we made certain recommendations and if there are any options, right? Flexibility.
Right. Okay. So now that the lawsuit part has been taken out and that we're talking about possibilities of getting at our next meeting a real understanding of what we're talking about monetarily, I can support the motion with the caveat that we are focusing on bringing the entire thing back the first meeting of January, because we can't just keep kicking this down the can down the road. And here we are in February, and then now things have changed and now we're in trouble.
No, for sure. Look, a rule of thumb is that when you delay a project for some months and then it kicks into a year, you're talking about a 10% possible impact. So projects that get delayed like a year and it's 100 million, you start talking about a project it's now going to be 120, 110. So no, we will get you the information as much as we can during this whole process. We'll do a scrub.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Okay, I want to thank Supervisor Aguirre. Did she leave? There you are. For bringing this up in the manner in which you did. And I think it is important that we do get clarity on what is department recommendations or suggestions versus law. And I think we've all fully expressed too that we don't want to put funding in jeopardy, that the projects that it fund, many of them have been in the pipeline and many of them are DBE businesses that are in that pipeline that may not get that job. So we have a few things to balance here. There's been some challenges for many of us over the past 9-10 months from things that we're seeing coming down from the federal government. And we're doing our best to get through it, holding on to our morals and values, and at the same time doing business. So with that, I will call for the vote. That generally passes. All right. That's the end of our meeting. So, hey, we're going into a holiday week. I'd like to wish everybody here a very happy Thanksgiving. I'm grateful for the work we do together and your contributions, ongoing contributions and great conversations that we're having in a place where I think we feel comfortable expressing our real true opinions and takes on everything and working together to come to yeses. All right, so this concludes our meeting. The next Board of Directors meeting will be December 12th at 9 a.m. This meeting is adjourned.
12:42 p.m. Got Paloma and Chavez, yeah, Paloma and Chavez. Done. Get out of this place. Shoot. No.